This is Focus on Liberia. Welcome to our broadcast, and we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. I am Anthony C.A., and this is our program, The Hour of Politics. As always, I am your host. Welcome to our broadcast. In this edition of The Hour of Politics, we have a very special guest, as we always do, but this guest is special indeed that you need to pay attention and stay with us as we resume this broadcast. Folks, welcome to our broadcast. This is Focus on Liberia, where we educate, we elevate, and promote all things Liberia. Our guest for today's edition of the Hour of Politics is Mr. Simeon C. Freeman. Mr. Freeman is our guest in this edition of the Hour of Politics. Thank you for joining our broadcast. And we are trying to get his take on the governing issues of our country, Liberia. But we know him to be a businessman, and we also know him to be a politician. So we will ask him some questions on how it is doing business in Liberia. We will get his perspective on that, and we will also get to know what he has been up to as a politician in the Republic of Liberia. Of course, this is where you want to be, focused on Liberia, and we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. At this time, I will welcome my guest, Mr. Freeman, who is the political leader of the Movement for Progressive Change, a new political party in Liberia that I've been hanging around for some time now. Mr. Freeman, welcome to Focus on Liberia. We are glad to have you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Sear, and it's a pleasure being in the company of yourself and to your listening audience.
All right. Mr. Simeon C.S. Freeman, again, he is the political leader of the Movement for Progressive Change, and he is our guest in this edition of the Hour of Politics. Well, this is your first time here at Focus on Liberia, and our tradition is always to ask you for a mini or less introduction of yourself so that our audience can get an opportunity to know a little more about you other than that big profile politician and businessman, maybe something along the lines that they can relate to as citizens. So please, what do you have to share with us?
I was born in Monrovia.
Mm-hmm.
At the JFK Hospital, and then my mother moved on to Buchanan. She's a Bassa woman, and she stopped in the third grade, and Monrovia had gotten so tough, so we moved to Buchanan. And her foster mother, with whom she has stayed, gave her a zinc shop in Buchanan in before town, in a place called Harlansville, and we stayed there. And that's where I grew up. So I went to Bernabo. Bernabo is a Bassa word, basically. It says when the peppers stop. So it's this elementary school in Buchanan I attended, and then went on to some other schools in Buchanan, and then attended the Lutheran Training Institute later after I dropped out of school for about a year after ninth grade. My mother couldn't make it anymore. And then I got an opportunity from my foster grandmother to be supported at the Lutheran Training Institute. And then graduated, and then came to Monrovia. It was tough. I live in some of the worst slum communities you can think about. And then later started business, and then enrolled at the Colorado Technical University, where I did bachelor's and master's, and went into business. And today I do business in Liberia, Ghana, and Nigeria. We do sugar in Nigeria. We do plastics and real estate in Ghana. In Liberia, we do DSTV. We do soft drink. We're about to relaunch the soft drink factory, where we stepping up its capacity from 5,000 bottles per hour to 30,000 bottles per hour, hoping to leverage our economies of skills We're also launching a new city. Hopefully, I should be able to do that by March this year. I want to build $100 million city in Guazon where I acquire 150 acres of land in the Guazon area to build Liberia's first planned living. So we're targeting more than 1,000 up to 2,000 homes. We heavily engage with financiers in Europe to try to raise funding for the project. That's a little about Simeon Freeman. I've got 3 children, married. That's it.
All right. Thank you so very much for sharing that little brief story with us. Again, folks, you heard it there. Our guest is like you, and he is like you, a Liberian who is trying, to make life just like we all do. But in this show, he's here for a task to share his experiences with us on issues. I'm glad that he touched on the business a little bit. And I was about to ask him, how is doing business in Liberia like? But he went ahead of talking about the progress he's made so far. But your company, the group that you serve as executive, of, how is business going with you people in Liberia?
We have lots of rough edges in Liberia, but those rough edges can be softened and smooth.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Liberia is like any other country where there are lots of documentation, there are challenges, but every one of those challenges can be silenced and isolated. It's not as smooth as it is in some other Western countries where documentation is just a click. For example, in America,
Mm-hmm.
you want to set up a company in Delaware, you can do it online within 24 to 48 hours. Here, there are a lot of in-person processes, but those are challenges that are not so difficult. So doing business here is not that bad. One of the biggest challenges I will tell you is access to financing. I'm able to raise money externally, but too many people are not. I'm also able to raise money internally. Too many people are not, and I wouldn't negate or ignore the fact that I am who I am. But lots of small businesses don't have access to credit, and it can be a serious problem because of the collateral requirement. Um, and also, some of the reasons why people don't have access to credit, sometimes in fact, there are lots of bad debts up to like 20%, which of course scares banks away. The banks themselves have liquidity challenges. But overall, those are challenges that can be negotiated. But if you are a bright entrepreneur with an idea and
Mm-hmm.
you want to just move forward with your idea, it can be challenging because where do you start from? Nobody finances greenfield in our part of the world. People finance ideas. Yeah, people finance you on the basis of your capacity. You know that you must at least have a collateral. You must at least have a track record many times, and many of the people requiring funding don't usually find people to fund them. And people like Zuckerberg started a business when Elon Musk started a business. He had no money. He didn't have collateral, but he was able to identify investors. And maybe it creates an opportunity for Liberians in America that have access to excess liquidity to put themselves together and set up an investment infrastructure. And I'm willing to help them situate themselves. I'm in a building right now. It's a 7-story building that I own. One of the floors of this building, we'll convert it to a small cubicle, small offices. So let's say Mr. CA wants to establish a business in Liberia. You wouldn't necessarily have to set up a whole office because we're going to give you office, we're going to give you a secretary, we're going to give you electricity, we're going to give you water, we're going to give you internet, we're going to give you TV, everything on the go. So if we charge you, say, $200 a month or $300 a month, you pay us, you have a space, you have a secretary, you have a telephone number, and you have a conference room. So those kinds of setups are in America. It makes it easier for small businesses to try. And
Right.
because I came from the ghetto and came from the middle of nowhere, so I know what it is when you're starting a business. So those kinds of structures we're trying to establish to create opportunities for other people that are coming up. But it's difficult trying to start up as an individual that has bright ideas. Many of the people that are thriving in America today have bright ideas, but they didn't have the money. But the
Right.
people who had the money invested in them. So I think it creates an opportunity for Liberians in the diaspora to tap on this gap. The way we see it, every problem or every challenge is an opportunity. When we didn't have mobile phones, somebody saw this opportunity. I remember several years back, the first sets of mobile phones were in vehicles, and they were quite large.
Right.
And somebody saw an opportunity, and today mobile phone is a multi-billion-dollar industry globally, making lots and lots of money for companies,
Lots and lots of money,
multi-billion-dollar industry.
Yeah.
So I think the funding gap in our country creates an opportunity for Liberians in the diaspora that have access to excess resources that want to partner. They can set up an investment firm and fund most of these ideas to bring it to light so that those ideas create possibilities for people.
And you did not get here easily and in a very short time. I read somewhere that at some point you were importing live cows from Guinea
Oh yeah,
to,
oh yeah.
to sell. And here you are today. You have a 5-story building that have offices that you are even willing to lease out to other individuals who might want to start a business. What kept you going from that level, selling cow? And I'm sure before the cow, you were doing something else also that might even be of
Yeah,
a lower
yeah,
scale.
yeah. It was tough. Most times people celebrate the success. People celebrate who you are, where you are. People don't see
Mhm.
the stories.
Right.
Nobody remember your pain. People remember who you are, where you've reached. That's what we celebrate. Yeah, it was tough. I remember I just spoke at one high school just last week,
Mhm.
and I was telling the high school graduates to never give up on their dreams. And I said to them, dreaming is the easiest part. It's easier to sit in your bedroom and say, I want to be a millionaire. But once you purpose and you decide what you want to be, then you must also realize that your dream will determine who your friends are. Your dream will determine what you do. Your dream will determine how you spend. It is your dream that drives you. And also I made it clear to them that look, when you set your dream, there will be challenges, significant challenges, but every challenge has a weakness. And that brought me to the story of the cow. I remember when I started selling live cows, it was tough. I used to buy the cow firstly from Cote d'Ivoire. My first challenge was that I realized the people from Liberia, the fuller people from Liberia were buying from Guinea and Cote d'Ivoire.
Okay.
So I said to myself, where are these people buying? The people in Cote d'Ivoire, where are they buying the cows from? I found out most of them were buying the cows from a place in Burkina Faso, the second largest city in Burkina. That's where they were buying the cows from. So, and they were also buying from another place called Tengelela, which is in Cote d'Ivoire, but it's at the border with Mali. So I started to go there to buy, and because I started to do that, the fullers in Danane, they didn't like the idea. And so they started to create initial difficulties for me. The first thing I did, I said, okay. So what they did was they started to tell the gendarme, the guys at the custom point
Yeah,
in
that's the
Danade,
security there. Mhm.
yeah, to make it very difficult for me. I said, okay. So what I did, my first challenge was that, what's my challenge? My challenge is to cross the car. I pay those guys, the fuller guys, the cattle headers in Danade, to cross my cow by foot and walk it to winter. So
Wow.
it took me a day to do that, and I will cross by myself. I'll just walk through, cross by myself, and get on a car somewhere in front. So they were looking for me, but they didn't find me. When you get to
Wow.
Liberia, you had a second challenge. The challenge was the guys at the slaughterhouse in Liberia are basically fuller people. And so the other Fuller people that were bringing cows, if you know anything about the Fullers, they are quite closely knit and quite united. It was difficult to get them to kill the cow. They would kill at will. We used to get up at 4 a.m., get to the slaughterhouse by 5. Sometimes they've only taken 2 of your cows. Imagine you bring in 30, 40, 50 cows, and they only took 2 on a particular day. So if you did a ratio, you would sell a very limited quantity. So what I did was I decided, okay, if these guys are not buying my cows, what are my problems? I identified what the problems were. Problems number one was that I didn't have meat shops. I was only a wholesaler of cows, but not an owner of meat shops. So I went to the Liberia Marketing Association and did a deal with them and took over all the meat shops in Rallytown Market and Waterside. So I had up to 4 shops. The next thing I needed people to man the shops. So I got back on the road. I went back to Okina to a place called Bobo de la So. I went there and I got some Fuller guys to come and man the shops. So now I had the shops. I had people to man the shops. All they had to do was to take my cow and sell it. So instead of getting off 4 a.m., I didn't have to. If I bring in 50, you take the cow, you sell it. I give it to you at the wholesale price, and I take care of the tax issues for the shop. So I had a problem, but I found what the challenges to the problem were, and I solved
Exactly.
them. So in every respect along the way, if you have a dream, you're going to have significant challenges. But it is not what your challenges are that are the problem. It is not what your challenges are that are the problem. It is what are the challenges and what are the solution to the challenges. So along the road, my story is long. That's just one of the many stories of the different challenges I've had to endure.
And thank you
So
for sharing that because when I read that story about how you were involved into live cow business, it's kind of inspire me that okay, if he can do this, and now today he has a faster rebuilding, and now you're talking about building a city is called that will have homes perfectly lined up. So let's talk about that city that you are working on. From my reading, what are you trying to accomplish with that city?
Liberia have never had a planned living.
Hmm.
You know, you go to Cote d'Ivoire, you see huge estates,
Hmm.
more than up to 2,000 homes. Um, uh, you see that a lot in Ghana and Nigeria. For example, in Nigeria, you have Banana Island, you have Lekki. So I thought, look, it's an opportunity to build such a thing here. So the first thing was I needed a land not far away from the city. And good enough, I got it in Dwazon. So I bought the entire waterfront, about 150 acres. Uh, so after I acquired the land, it was a whole process trying to acquire it. This is something that I've been working on for the last 3, 4 years. So the first thing was to acquire the land. Once we acquired the land, finally, some portions of the land require reclamation, which we are in the process of completing. The last and final phase is to start the construction, which is where we are now. So I've sent for a few machines, some Caterpillar and some trucks that will be coming in by the end of March. So once they're here, then we step up to the second phase of the project, which will be the actual construction. That's why I say I am looking forward to starting the process by the end of March. So we've gotten initial funding from a few institutions externally, and we're looking forward to start that process.
So did you secure funding in Liberia as well from our banks? I know we're going to get to
Uh,
that, but
no, for the size of that project, most of the banks here, bank share cannot give you more than more than I think they can't give any one client about $5 million for or more than that because the total minimum capital requirement is about 10 million. So I think they're not permitted to give you more than, I think, 20 or 30%
So,
of
so,
their.
so how many units are you looking at here with this city? How
Uh,
many units?
so far, we've been able to draw up about 1,500 units, but we're building them in stages. So the first sets of units will be four-story building
Mhm.
with about 16 apartments. All right. And then so we're setting aside like 20, 30 acres of land that we have it will be laid out streets, and it will have different apartments in there, and we're gonna do our own hydro as well. So we have our own electricity, have our own water arrangement in there. The next set will be townhouses. You see those townhouses they have in the DC area.
Mhm.
So when you enter from below is the kitchen and stuff like that. Then the second floor is rooms. So we have another 30 acres that will have those kinds of structures. Then after that 30 acres, we have another 15 acres of land strictly for recreation. So there will be, like a water park, lots of entertainment. We want to have multiple entertainment facilities. So we will probably be able to host 6, 7, 8, 9 weddings in one day and still do entertainment. We're going to have parks and all these things on the 15 acres. After that, then we have another 20 acres we're setting aside for luxury living. So that's where we're going to have the individual units, all right, all by themselves, 3, 4 bedrooms all by themselves, totally laid out. And then the other
So,
side of
so,
it, we're
so
looking
those would be the single family homes, right?
the single family homes. Yeah.
Okay. And what I want to ask also in the city, you mentioned other things, but I didn't yet about businesses or areas being set aside for businesses so that they don't have to leave from there and
And
travel as far as Redland.
that's what I was coming to. The
Okay.
other acreage. So we're setting
Hmm.
aside about 10 acres where we
Hmm.
have services. All right. So those
Hmm.
services will mean Mr. C wants to say set up a pharmacy.
Right.
Okay, he can set up a pharmacy in that area. Mr. C wants to set up a fast food chain. He can set it up there. So it's like a whole business district that we're
Mhm.
gonna be situating on 10 acres. And even in that business district, we're gonna have a pool of areas, like gardens and what have you, where people can also relax as part of recreation for shopping. So it's all
And,
part of
and
the layout. That's why it's costing about $100 million.
all right. And people must have the ability to pay in order for them to occupy, these facilities that you're building. I mean, or else, I mean, what's the point? You want to make money, making life easier for people, but at the same time, you have to make money. I guess my question is, who are you targeting? Or what is your overall plan, to make sure that
I'll
people
tell you
occupy
what.
these homes? Yeah. Mhm. Go
Correct.
ahead.
I'll tell you what. The current
Mhm.
rent in the Monrovia area is anywhere
Mhm.
between $200 to $250 per
Mhm.
month, right?
Okay.
Anywhere
Yeah.
in between that. So we're gonna be offering similar competitive rates. So the 16 apartments in the four-story building.
Right.
If we're renting it to Mr. C for say $225 a month, and we're also selling him utilities, right? Water, light come to another say $70. That takes his monthly bill to say about $300 or $295. That's comparable to what's happening all around Monrovia, and other parts of Monrovia is even more expensive. So we believe that by putting all of that under one roof, we'll be able to create alternatives for young professionals that want a place to live, to start a family, and still be able to come to work, considering Duazon is right here, not far outside the
And
city.
and
So we're
and
looking we're
all
looking at
this,
young professionals.
yeah, go
Go
ahead, go
ahead.
ahead. No, I wanted to
You
ask,
go
and
ahead.
all this is being done on the consolidated group, right?
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
Correct. So
All
we're
right.
looking at that. We also targeting townhouses, basically targeting another layer of professionals. So let's say there's a guy that works in the bank. He makes probably about 1,500, $2,000, or say a guy works for a company and makes that range. He's probably able to take the townhouses. But the way we're doing this, we want to set it up in a way that you can also buy upright. You can buy an apartment upright if you want. All right.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
that's why I'm about to come to the
So
apartments, the townhomes, the single family homes. There will
correct.
be options for people like me, probably in the US, who may have the money to buy it straight out.
You can buy straight up. So we got two types of sales plan, like what we're doing in Ghana right now.
Right.
We sell off plan and
Mhm.
we sell after we build. So off plan means we show you the plan, you see it, you like it. We show you a prototype of the structure, you like it. You start to pay us in installment. But before we turn the house over to you, you must have paid up 100%. So I'll give you similar stuff that's working in Accra. What we do is we let's say, for example, some of our low cost apartments in Accra goes for like $30,000, $40,000. So Mr. C is interested in that apartment. What is he gonna do? He approaches us and he makes the first deposit of $3,000 before we start to build. And we break down his payment plans over the next 12 months. Usually it's not more than 12 months, 12 months to 12 to 24 months. So he pay after 3 months, he pay another $5,000. After another 90 days, he pays another 4, 5,000. And within the 12 months period of the building, after 12 months, return, give him his key and the property is his. We don't finance like it's done in America. We don't finance you.
Mhm.
Usually in America, your finance comes from the bank. And because
Right.
banks in Africa don't have that capacity to finance long term, we don't. So you find the money, you pay us, we prepay. Now, when we done construction and you come to buy, the price is also different.
All
So
right.
at that point we sell it for probably 30 or 40% higher than the pre-built.
Well, I think you know this well than I do, or as I do, that Liberians in the diaspora will seize on the opportunity because the stories are common. Oh, I got my land, when I got ready to build, that land is in contention. I send money to family person and then there's noise.
Correct.
So this will be able to solve. But quickly, let's end on
And,
the
and,
business
and just
note.
before we
Mhm.
skip that, and that's what
Right.
gave rise to real
Mhm.
estate to flourish in Cote d'Ivoire, Ghana, and Nigeria,
Right.
because these things were quite prominent. Where Mr. C sends money to me, his brother, I show him pictures of somebody's house. When you finally came down to Liberia to see
Mhm.
the house didn't exist. The land probably was even gone, and then your heart was broken, or you procured the land. When you finally decided to build, it was in contention. You couldn't build, and so people started to build private estates, and that has given rise to some of the things we are looking at in our own country, where we think once we invest in it, it will create an opportunity for Liberians in the diaspora to walk in and say, oh, but this is a house, I can afford this, I will pay per the plan and what have you. Yeah.
All right. Let's talk on another business that I heard about, and let's be brief on this one so we can get to the political. That's why the Liberian people like. I don't know why. DSTV. And
Yeah.
I will not go too much into this. Maybe the next time you come, we can have a specific interview on your work in the business area. But give me a little bit on DSTV. I mean, what is your association? What is your role with this DSTV? Are you the owner or are you a partner? What it is? Because Liberians are confused about your role.
Well, I am the owner, and for the record, the building is 7-story building, it's not five that we occupy, but I'm the owner. But the way it works is television via satellite.
Mhm.
So we provide TV via satellite, and quite recently we were able to drop our price to $25. So if you're in America, you want to pay for DSTV for your family, it's now possible. We're giving the decoder, the dish, the satellite dish, plus 1 month subscription, plus installation, everything for $25. Yeah, that's about DSTV.
All right. Yeah, I read somewhere that it dropped from 65, I think 65 to 25. So that is a little break for those who have been paying for that service. Folks in cyberspace, focus on Liberia here. Anthony C, your host. My guest is Mr. Freeman. He is the political leader of the movement for progressive change, but he is a businessman, and so we try to talk to him about business in Liberia, how it is, and how his businesses have been doing. And I think you got something from him. And so, Mr. Freeman, everything has been going for you in terms of business because you put in the time and all the hard work. And now a political party, my man. What's going on here? Somebody listening to this might say, but wait now, is Mr. Freeman greedy? You know, business going for you, coming to the politics. This is a terrain that, you know, people are not merciful in the terrain. So tell me, how did you get to establish a political party?
Yeah, and Mr. Sia, that's precisely the problem. When I talk to my friends around, they say, "Oh, look, everything is okay for you. You're living large, you're living good. Why do you want to get into politics?" I tell you what, our country, what drove me to politics was I've listened to different politicians and I've seen us repeat the same challenges. I've seen us repeat the same missteps. I've seen us repeat the same false starts. And every time we repeat it, we get the same result, and we're not making progress. And I said to myself, have anybody sat down to look at how Liberia was founded? Who formed Liberia? Who were the actors? And why do we have the current structure of government? Why do we have the current focus in terms of development? If we're not looking at that, then we're going to have a problem. Let me give you an example. Two groups of people in 1847, in 1822, ex-slaves from America came to Liberia. The American Colonization Society established Liberia. By 1847, ex-slaves, our forefathers, were brave enough and they established the Republic of Liberia. Thanks be to them. You can see that when they established Liberia, what was all that was said in the seal, the love of liberty brought us here.
Okay.
Resulting of that, what happened? You could see that a government was established. Who were the actors in the government? The actors in the government were predominantly the ex-slaves themselves. The educational institution that was established, the University of Liberia, was basically an institution established to provide human resources for the government. When LU was established those days, or education in Liberia was established, it was never established to provide solutions for the country, or it was never established to provide manpower resources for the private sector. It was established to provide HR. So notice at the University of Liberia, some of our biggest colleges, public administration, political science, sociology, and all these things, you know, economics, and all these things that were established. These are not things that are really consumed in the private sector by businesses, by industry. Our entire focus. So notice, if I sent you after this thing, I will send you something on your email. You see,
okay.
Our budget by the 1946 was about, I think, 2 or 10 million. I don't have to figure now. I have to be careful what I say, but I think it was just about that. But you will notice that we grew from that amount to about $25 million by 1969. And as we grew, you know, I think it was 2 million in 1946. As we grew in the size of our budget, we also grew in the size of, let me look at the figure. It was $2,240,000 in 1946.
Okay.
By 1961, we jumped to 27,500,000. But as there was an increment in revenue, there was also an increment in the size of the government. So our government grew over time.
What's about living standard? What's about living standard at the time?
Living standard didn't grow. If you look at everything that was happening at the time, you didn't have significant growth in living standard because you didn't have a significant quantity of people which made up Liberia factor into the national budget or factor into the way government and the governance process was seen. That's why you notice in Liberia, development is seen as you go to a county, you build an administrative building, the president go there and dedicate it, that's development. You go and build one hospital in a county, that's development. You build a school in Grand Crew, that's development. You build one city hall in Sino County, that's development. Whereas where you stay, development is seen differently. Development is seen as development of infrastructure, provision of jobs, enabling private sector, creating opportunities for a thriving private sector that is then taxed for the government to prosper. Here is the other way around. Big companies are seen as the investor or investment. So those days it was mining, then Firestone came along, it was rubber. So money from things like Firestone and other export related activity gave us revenue, and that revenue was spent on a government. So in terms of developmental structure, is that mindset. When Samuel Doe came to power in 1980, there was a lot of excitement, a lot of joy. But then what happened? You saw that Doe himself didn't understand what was happening, so he replaced the Congo people with the Crown people. And then what happened? You had the new Congo people were the Crown people, and so the rest of the country started to hate them. Then we went through all of these years of crisis. Then what happened? Then Ellen Johnson Sirleaf became president. Notice something. By 2006, when Ellen Johnson became president, she inherited a budget of 88 million US dollar. That was our annual budget. The total wage bill when she became president was 40 million US dollar. 40 million. By the time she left office in 2017, the total wage bill jumped from 40 million to $310 million. So the increment in budget did not translate to the creation of a non-existing private sector. The increment in the size of the collection envelope or revenue envelope led to increment in public expense. So you notice that we also transitioned along from about 25 million people, from 35,000 people that was inherited in 2006. We moved the wage volume to the number of people to about, there's argument of 50 to 55,000 people. So you notice we added.
So Mr. Freeman, now this unique piece of history that you have given is only explaining to us what we have been doing wrong as a country.
Correct.
And now you have a political party. Is your party the one to solve this problem? Is that why you established the institution?
And that's precisely the point I'm driving.
Okay.
With all of that misstep, which you see from the early years was practiced and continuously repeated year in year out by different leaders. If we don't have a leadership that understands where we're coming from, how we've missed a step, and we've gotten here, if we don't have a leadership that understands that, we're going to continuously repeat the misstep. I'll give you something. Up today is 2021, right?
Yes.
The budget, the GDP of Liberia is 3 billion. Do you think Liberia's GDP is 3 billion? Liberia is probably about 10 billion economy. But we have not rebased our economy to capture what is really happening outside of what is known. We just focus our entire economy on what is known and say it's a 3 billion economy. When we rebase our economy like Nigeria did, the Nigerian economy was not one of the largest in Africa. When Nigeria rebased our economy and captured all of those other sectors that were not captured, what happened? The size of the budget increased and Nigeria became Africa's largest economy.
What do you mean by rebase? Hold on. What do you mean by rebase your economy, and how is it done?
Yeah, it's basically an economic word. Recalculate. So Mr. say he has a wife with 3 children, right? Yeah. That is the one that is known. But Mr. C has 15 other children outside that he's not also checking. So when he added 15 to the 3, it means his total number of children will be what? 18 children in total. But if you just take Mr. C current wife, so what I'm saying is all of this that's happening in our cocoa industry, through our farmers, musicians that are making music, people that are making movies, all that they're doing, all that's happening outside the real economy that we're not capturing. I'll give you an example. Mobile money, as of 2019, November, reported total transaction of 836 million US dollar that took place outside of the banking sector using mobile money.
Wow.
All of that volume is not captured in our real economy. And mobile money has not even reached its potential. So when we rebase our economy, when we expand the outlook, the way we measure GDP, we'll be able to capture all of those other things. And the next thing that will happen is we can tap on a lot of possibilities. Take real estate tax. If we actually rebase and then reposition our tax infrastructure, we'll be able to collect more than $500 million a year just on real estate alone. And all I'm saying is, if we don't enable the right people by putting them into leadership, people who've been able to transform themselves from A to B, we will continuously make the mistakes that we've made all along that have us where we are. Is Liberia a poor country? No. Is Liberia a land of great opportunities? Yes. Are we misstepping? Yes. Look, I'll tell you something. I spoke to one of the U.S. ambassadors a couple of months back, and I said, look, why are you always giving me 1 year round trip visa, multiple visa when I'm going to the States? And the ambassador said, look, simply put, reciprocity. We give Ghana 5 years. We give India 10 years. Every time we come here, you give us 1 year. What do we have in Liberia, and why aren't we trying to take advantage of these low-hanging fruits? If we were to, it just requires a pronouncement by the president, and everybody coming to Liberia can come free of charge. You don't have to pay anything. It means even if you are a Liberian in America that have a second passport, if you come in, you just come. You don't have to pay anything. That's what Mauritius makes some money from. Mauritius makes significant quantity of our resources from tourism. The number one income earner, Mauritius, and what's the other country near Mauritius? No, not Gambia. There's another small island country near Mauritius. I'll call it name. They make all of their money from tourism. And so I think we're missing up on these low-hanging fruits. Imagine if you open your border up, imagine how much money is going to come. Mr. CA can jump with 50 other people and say, let's build a hotel in Liberia, because now a lot more people will be coming, and there will be a lot more passenger and a lot less bed to provide for them. It creates a whole range of opportunities. We're not tapping on these low-hanging fruits, and I think we need new approaches to exploit the existing opportunities that we not see. That's what drove me into politics.
And you are talking about low-hanging fruit, and I like you brought that up. Some people think that forming a political party and running to be president is the low-hanging fruit, right? Because as you well know, politics in Liberia, all you have to do is be able to yell on top of your head. The next thing you are popular, the next thing you are elected. Low-hanging fruit. And you are joining this too?
No. And that's where I think Mr. CA play a role.
Okay.
In Liberia, politics is when journalists are promoting politicians, what do? They judge the political party on the basis of the number of cars it is brought to the table, who is behind the politician, rather than what the person is saying. So in many respects, we throw away substance and relevance, and we replace it with nothingness, we replace it with irrelevance, and so we
maybe we replace it with fantasy. Maybe we replace it with fantasy. That's what I see.
I like your choice of words. So I think, thanks to people like Facebook, thanks to social media, when people like you start to give people like us that are substantive, that talk sense, that are discussing bread and butter issue, I think it's going to create an opportunity and create a divide. Because journalists, an irrelevant person in America can't just get to relevance in America, because the journalist will say, Basman, you don't even have a place to sleep. You have not even been able to lift yourself out of anything, and you talking here. First thing, journalists won't even come to your press conference. But here, everybody goes to everything and then what happens? Nothing happens. So I think as Liberians, when we start to evaluate persons on the basis of what they bring to the table, I think we'll have a very small channel and a small space that we can now sell to our people.
And I want a quick answer on this one. So your political party, the Movement for Progressive Change, where is that political party? Is it hanging in a bag in one of your offices? And how organized is it? And you want us to ask the hard questions, right? So I'm doing that. Where is, because many parties are in
Please.
bag, and you know it, Mr. Freeman.
So the MPC has a recognized office in Sinka.
Okay.
We write at the Sharks Junction, and the office is very well situated. We've got air conditioning all there. There's electricity there. There's running water there. The bathrooms there are clean. We have about, let me see, 3 bathrooms there. We've got 4 offices there. So it's a functioning office. It's working quite well.
And
I was laughing because you asked the question.
And Mr. Freeman, you think that is enough to impress the voters? You know the kind of voters you're dealing with here. And when are you going to go to Grand Cru, my county? Are you in Lofa?
No, and that's the point. You know, unfortunately, the way politics is done here, sub offices in counties are not heavily supported prior to an upcoming election.
Okay.
So all of the political parties across the board do that because of the cost of running these offices in the 15 counties. So prior to the election, probably a year before the elections, then you know all of these things open up. But right now we just got a billing in Buchanan as of yesterday to set up a sub office, and so Buchanan and Banga, we're setting up sub offices there. And I can assure you by next week, those offices will be up and running. The one in Buchanan will be up and running in about 3 weeks because the building requires some serious renovation, and we're doing the renovation now. So, right. But let's come back to the issue of, is it enough to impress the people? I think what is enough to impress the people should be, where have you taken yourself from? How far have you brought yourself? And how do you want to transform our country? I think if we can evaluate people on that basis, I think it might help us greatly, other than just looking at, you know, the size of your office, how large it is, and how many offices you have in there versus how do you contribute to the development of Liberia in terms of your appreciation of our challenges.
So 2017, you contested, and did you contest before 2017 as well? The election
yes,
before
I contested 2011 and 17, correct.
2017. And the results were very poor. And I'm seeing that you want to keep on the path. Are you hopeful that you're going to get to the finish line someday? You're not making that noise.
No. Yeah, no. The thing is that I tried in 2011, I tried in 2017. I have not given up on my people. Okay. I strongly believe that explaining what our challenges are will help people understand that choices need to be made. And I'm hoping that they will see me as that option. To lead the country forward. And I'm inviting Mr. Anthony Sear to be the first to jump publicly and be driven by this great vision and associate with us so that we can drive our country forward.
Well, let me show you something that is not the one. This is it. Sometime in October of 2019, you were quoted by Front Page Africa saying that you created bad leaders. Stop crying. And these people make their decision that, okay, this person is going to help us. Is it because you were in a race and you were not selected or voted for, so you are unhappy with their decision? And now you're saying, well, cry your own cry. Is that how you relate to the people when they make their decision? Why can't you just wait for that your time?
No, it's not about, it's not about them making a mistake. Listen, interestingly, in America, when you go to the polls, election is about bread and butter issues,
Okay.
right? In
I know that.
America, election is
Yeah.
about bread and butter issues. So
Mhm.
people don't vote because they don't vote for John Brown in America because his political party has 50 cars. People vote for John Brown because John Brown, look, my tax is high. Are you cutting my tax? Yes, I'm going to cut your tax. John Brown, look, we have infrastructure issues. Are you going to challenge this? Yes, this is how I'm going to challenge this. Look, John Brown, we need jobs. This is how I'm going to create the job. I'm saying after the 2017 elections, that was very much hotly contested. You voted for a leader. What was the basis of that vote? And that's the thing people do. Right after George Weah was elected, then people started saying, oh, we need somebody to criticize George Weah. But what were you looking at when you voted for George Weah? What did he say to you that he would do for you? You gave us two options. You gave us Joseph Boyka, you gave us George Weah. So that was what you wanted. I was also in the race. So when you vote, that vote takes you for 6 years or probably 12 years. If you're 30 years old, you're going to be 42 years old when that person leaves power. If you're 50, you're going to be 62.
Mr.
If
Freeman.
you're 20, you're going to be 32. I'm saying
Mr.
to you,
Mhm.
go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Freeman, I'm just going to say, from my village, there's this saying that when someone is drowning, you remove them from the water first or from the river. And then after that, you can give them a slap on the back so that they can pull the water out. These
The same, the
people,
same, the
these
same
people
parable is
are
true for my
drowning. They
village.
are read that you're not taking them out, and you are say, "Well, cry your own cry."
No, this is what you do. Firstly,
Okay.
they are not drowning, and I think the
You think they're not
analogy is
drowning
just
economically? You think they're not
no.
drowning economically?
I'm not thinking. I'm driving a point.
Okay.
When a man is drowning, it
Mhm.
means that he's at a point of death.
Okay.
But our people are not drowning. Our people are facing difficulty, and that difficulty results from the choices they make. So they are at a point where they can hear. So I think it's more of if a lady is pregnant, your daughter is pregnant, do you deliver her or you blast her while she has the pregnancy so she understands what she's done is wrong? So in every respect, where our people are, they need to understand that elections is not about rice, it's not about t-shirt, it's not about who you love, it's about your future. The leadership of the country is going to determine where we go, how we get there. And I think it's important our people understand that. Now, the next thing I've done is,
Mhm.
you see, the second mistake we make is Simeon Freeman is elected president. He doesn't have the capacity to. Mr. Anthony C.A. comes out and starts to criticize Simeon Freeman. Mr. Anthony C.A. brings no suggestion, nothing to the table. He just criticizes Simeon Freeman. And then the new hero is Anthony C.A. because he criticizes somebody that we elected. That is the second misstep. We keep making relevant irrelevant people. Because I criticize you doesn't make me a better leader. Because I criticize you doesn't mean I know what I'm doing. So what I'm doing is all of the press conferences I've had, I proffer clear suggestions.
And
The
we'll get to
quote
more
you giving,
suggestion. Hold your thought
no, but
there.
the quote
Mhm.
the quote you giving when I spoke at the press union event, I was a guest speaker.
Right.
I talked about, look, privatizing LEC, privatizing water and sewer, privatizing LEC, water and sewer, and LPRC. Today, we're having challenges with the LEC, we're having water and sewer challenges. All of these things, if you have privatized them as per my suggestion, we will probably have made some progress. So instead of attacking this government, the best way to help this government, like I did in the past, is to give them ideas. Whether they take it or not, that's their choice, and that's the
And that's
choice of
the
the people of
question.
Liberia.
Is the government taking the ideas? But before you come to that, I wanted to ask because,
Yeah.
these people that voted for their choices of leaders, and now things are not going well for them, evidenced by the economic situation in the country. Are you trying to say that they didn't know what they were doing? Because what I see It's easier to say it that way, but there's another way to look at it. Hey, look, these people might have been moved by the association with these people, but they wanted these people to do well. I'm not sure anyone elects somebody and say, hey, because you gave me $5, just go and do whatever, steal all the money. That is not the case. It is the leaders that are letting those people down. Do you not see it that way, Mr. Freeman?
No, I don't. I don't share that view. Listen, when it comes to look, listen, I'm in the private sector, and you are on this show, right?
Right.
You're not just gonna take a guy who comes to you and say, "I'm a journalist, put me on the air, and let me go and interview your guests." You're gonna subject that person to some evaluation before you give them responsibility.
Even training.
Nobody is just thank you. They're not just going to take you and make you CEO of a major company, a company that makes that earns that has a revenue of $1 million a month or $1 million a year. You must have had a track record. When you're making somebody president of a nation, there's a lot involved. I mean, let's face it, George Weah did not have the eloquence or the corporate governance capacity or the public sector capacity in any respect. George Weah was a very successful athlete that lifted the name of Liberia to a whole new level. And that's all he was. Because he presented himself at the presidency, didn't mean that the people of Liberia should have taken up on it. The people of Liberia made a choice. Right after they made a choice, then they started holding the hands of other people and say, yeah, criticizing, criticizing. So when it comes to election, we mustn't ignore these core issues of the fact that when you make a man president, he takes you with him or he takes you down with him. He takes you up or he takes you down. I think the more Mr. C preached that message on his platform and all other journalists preach that platform, the next outcome in our elections, you will see the actors will be small. Because even though 50 people might try to be president, but the relevant few will be those who have a track record and capacity to deliver.
Let me show you another quote from you here, Mr. Freeman, and it was January 18th of 2017. And you said Liberia does not have a revenue problem. We have a priority problem. Is that still true today?
It's true. We don't have a revenue problem, have a priority problem. What are we spending our money on? I just told you. Madam Sally became president. She inherited an $88 million budget with a public service wage bill of 40 million. And what happened? We ended up with 310 million for public servants. So it means that our priorities were never in line with was never in line with our challenges. For example, we're spending about $260 million importing rice to this country. When we got an increase in revenue, why couldn't we take 100 million of that money and put it into the private sector to isolate the need for rice? Why couldn't we take another 100 million to create import substitution, which would have created more jobs? Why did we spend it on the private sector? Why did salaries flare out of the window? Why did we expand the government? Why did we create all of these new agencies? We just kept creating agencies like things were running out of steam. So we don't have a revenue problem. And let me just say this to you.
Mm-hmm.
As a successful businessman, I can tell you, any businessman problem is not money. A businessman problem is the vision. What are you selling? Is it marketable? Can they be bought? Does it provide a need? Does it provide a service? If that works, you can go to any country and you can sell your concept. One woman in America decided to sell this thing called Spanx. You know, the thing the women wear. Today,
right. Mm-hmm.
Spanx is that stuff that holds you tight from the waist.
Yeah.
All we know, people been wearing, panties and what have you, but she started an idea of Spanx, and today she's a billionaire with a B. All you need is an idea.
And I see that on the internet a lot.
Yeah, and the Liberian government we collected quite a lot of money. We are still collecting money, but our priorities are few, and we don't even know how to expand on our revenue infrastructure. I'll give you an example. Right now, about a couple of years ago, the GST on mobile money was, I think, about 7% or 8%. GST here is the same as VAT. Mm-hmm. So what did we do? We step it up now. The GST on mobile phone is about 15%, plus another 5% they have there, which makes it about 20%. So you
All
see the
right.
reality. So
Yeah.
so instead of because we grew in our mobile phone usage, we grew to almost 4 point something million. Instead of looking at it differently, we saw it as a source of revenue to tax it just to get short-term income. So like I keep saying, we don't have a revenue problem. What we have is prioritization. And even when we do get the money, what do we spend it on? So Mr. C cry for money. As soon as he gets money, he wants to chase all the girls in the neighborhood. He wants to go bowling. He wants to go on to Vegas. He wants to buy a new car. He wants to do this. We don't have a revenue
Are
problem.
you
And you
saying
can
that's
see
what
it.
our officials are doing, Mr. Freeman?
Oh no, what I'm basically saying is the things we spend the money on, in terms of our priorities, just don't add up. The money we spend on the legislature, one senator making 15,000, one representative making 8,000. When you query that, they say, oh, you must compare us with other countries. How much the representative in another country making? The country you're comparing yourself to, how much is the budget of that country? What's the quality of life of the citizens of that country? Maybe
All
we
right.
should compare that too before we even compare salaries. But these are all the things that's basically hurting us. Up to now, we have not even determined a simple car policy. Who should get a car when you're working for government? How should that car be paid for? Well, these are simple, low-hanging fruits that when you sit down and begin to structure and organize, you'll find out that, look, it changes the entire writing on the wall for which direction Liberia is headed in. And those are the kinds of things we bring to the table in terms of a proper governance infrastructure that creates opportunities for growth.
My guest is Simeon Freeman. He is the political leader of the Movement for Progressive Change. Welcome to Focus on Liberia. I'm Anthony C. hosting, and this is the Hour of Politics. Welcome to the CPP. You are a leader for a political party. You are an opposition political party leader. I see that you are now part of the CPP. Why, Mr. Freeman?
Well, firstly, I'm not part of the CPP because, look, we can be hypocritical with the future of Liberia and the growth aspirations of our country. I just told you, Madam Sirleaf was president. Madam Sirleaf inherited an $88 million budget. She took it to 500 million by 2010. She also expanded the wage bill to 310 million. She left a huge debt, even though we had a debt waiver. I think she left a debt of about 800 and something million when she left office. It was higher than that, but it was servicing it. She left a very low maternal mortality, high maternal mortality rate. Education was nothing to write home about. She said it herself that education was a garbage. She didn't refocus education in Liberia from purely academic to technical. If you were to invite a factory here or a value addition, learn from Asia. Asia invested heavily in technical education. In America, it's not the man with sociology that makes the water you drink. It's not a man with public administration that makes the shirt you wear that comes out of China. All of the different products you buy at your Walmart, your Costco that comes from outside the country, basically are made by technicians. The mobile phone that you use. We never really focus our education on those sectors. And these are the same people that said absolutely nothing when Ellen Johnson Sirleaf was president. All of a sudden, they bundled themselves together and they are now supposed to be the one criticizing this other president because he doesn't favor them. For me, that's hypocrisy. And I think if you're serious about moving our country forward, you must be able to call a speed a speed. If Mr. John do it, it's sin. If Mr. C does the same thing, it's also sin. But you can't close your eyes to Mr. C's sin and then you put your mouth on Mr. John's sin. So when Joseph Boyka was vice president, education was hopeless. Today, education is hopeless. Yeah, but it was hopeless under you. So you can't now present yourself, you cannot now present yourself as the one that will be talking for the people of Liberia and speaking in their behalf. That's just hypocrisy.
And that is the word you use to describe the opposition. And you went further by saying they were in bed politically with Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. And you mentioned Liberty Party and ANC. ANC Secretary General Alosha told him, he said, your statement was unfortunate. That is one for you. And then also, you refer to folks in the opposition calling for the political head of Simeon 12 and Nathaniel Magay as being childish. Why?
Yeah, like I said, look, all of the 12 years that I stood against Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, I never told her who to put in government. You understand? You have to
Mhm.
understand that the president of Liberia has the right to appoint whoever he or she wants. Now, it is not my business to tell Mr. C who to put on the show. But if focus on Liberia, if this media infrastructure screws up, doesn't do the right thing, it's in my position to deal with the institution. I think if we come to George Weah and say, look, your government is misstepping, these are the areas in which they are misstepping, these are the ways in which it can get better, I think that's the way to go. But I think when you blame the entire results, outcome of a government on two persons and say, change these people, that's it. So when you change these two people and you put Mr. C and Mr. John in their position and they screw up, then what do you do next? Blame them? So when does George Weah take the responsibility for the fact that he's elected president? He's the president. Hold him responsible, right? So if you
But
hold
Mr.
him
Freeman,
responsible, go ahead.
you are a businessman and you well know there are companies that will be struggling and the board of director will say, well, the CEO has to go, and then the CEO is gone, and another CEO comes in, will come with a different approach to doing business, and that business will start to boom again. That's on the business
So,
side that you have experience with. Hold on now. On the political side, there's something called reshuffle that you are very familiar with. Mana Bio just did it. Ellen Johnson Sirleaf was doing well when Antonin Sayer was there. She has to leave. Gafwan have to come. Gafwan have to leave. Amara have to come. He has to leave. And then Boama. So this is not new. They are not
so
performing.
all so all we're saying,
Mhm.
the decision of Ellen Johnson Sirleaf was influenced by her own persuasion and
Okay.
based on the reports and feedback she got from the board of directors, which is the people of Liberia.
Mhm.
So in this case, the man that has to hire and fire, let's assume, is the board chairman. The
Okay.
board chairman is the president of Liberia, right?
Mhm.
So that president of Liberia must firstly decide and be convinced and persuaded that his CEO is not performing. True or false?
He could be wrong also. So there where the
No,
board need to come in,
no,
and that's
no.
the Liberian people that are
No,
saying do
no,
this.
no, no. The
Mhm.
Liberian people, you see, you have to discuss this in real life. In
Okay.
real life, once you vote a man president, our constitution creates no provision for what we call the recall vote. So you
Mhm.
can't say George Weah is never going to be president because 100,000 people can sign up and take him out. There is no
Right.
recall vote in our constitution. So when he's president, every minister in government serves at the will and pleasure of the president. So if you're dealing with the president, deal with the president and say the economy is out of order. The commerce of the country is out of order. Your monetary policy is in disorder. Let the president decide that, look, my monetary policy, since it's not working, I will fire the central bank governor or I will review his contract, pay him off and let him go, or I will fire my finance minister. So go. But when you from the outside without knowing all of these issues come and say fire the finance minister, it means you take responsibility for the outcome. So if the president fires the finance minister, fires his minister of state or whoever else you say he should fire, and the new people don't perform, you come back to him and you say fire, let the president be the one taking the heat for everything. Let's say to this president, you, George, we are not performing because the economy is not in order. If he accepts it or not, that's his choice. Our next thing is to go to the polls when it is time to elect to say, we are totally disapproving of your action. But to come and say, fire this person, my entire period, I never said to Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, fire Gafwan, fire Amara Coney, even though I thought the economy, the fundamentals of the economy were not in order, but it was not in my place. What was in my place was to say what the mistakes were and what needed to be done. That's it.
But you got the right if you needed to say that, right?
When you say right, you must know where you're right and the president has the right to appoint.
The right to express that as a citizen.
The right to express that as a citizen is for me as a citizen to say what is not working. But for me to lay that blame squarely on one person is not my right. I have the privilege to express as a citizen to say, well, in my mind and within the limits and scope of what I know, I think this person is not performing. That is a privilege a person has. But as an informed person, I know that the president needs to be held responsible. And who do I hold responsible for the economy not functioning the way it should? I hold George Weah personally responsible. He has the leverage and the choice to either make a personal change or work with his current financial personnel to advise them properly. He has the leverage to sit with them and say, German, look, we've been focusing in this direction. We need to focus. Sometimes some of the things I realize, not necessarily you need to fire people. Sometimes you just need to redirect the focus as the head. And as a business owner, I've done that quite a lot. I will sit with people and redirect the focus, and I start to see the business going in a whole new direction.
Focus on Liberia. I'm Anthony C. hosting. My guest is the political leader of the Movement for Progressive Change. That is Mr. Simeon Freeman. He has been talking, and let me share something with you that he said. Mr. Freeman used this news conference to demand lawmakers, particularly the Senate, to restitute the $6,500 each senator received at the end of their deliberation of the president's state of emergency, which they endorsed overwhelmingly. Mr. Freeman frowned at the senators for taking the money for their personal use when hospitals and healthcare workers do not have protective gears, and some recently threatened to go slow because they have not been paid. The MPC political leader also announced that he is going to prepare to institute a separate lawsuit against all of the senators who collected the money to endorse President Weah's reasons for the state of emergency. Was that lawsuit filed?
No, it wasn't. When we took the first suit to court, that was the suit on the state of emergency. The court, the justice in chamber did not receive our suit. The justice in chamber read it and said that we should. In fact, there were two suits. One was on the state. One was on Wamodiki.
Yeah.
The guy who's at.
And one was on the 6,500, right?
Correct. So we filed the first two before we could file the second. So the justice in chamber was not favorable. The justice in chamber said that we needed to start on the lower court. Our lawyers felt that we didn't need to start on the lower court. And so our lawyers figured that if we had also filed the documentation for the 6,005, we may not have been favorably embraced. And so that's
so this 6,500, you were furious about it. I could tell when I was reading the article. Why you felt that way?
In many respects, there are lots of challenges in our country. And I think when people that are elected to public office don't in every respect lend the kind of recognition that has to be lent to these challenges, I think it can be a problem. 6,500 is no small money in this country, but some people make $500 a month. Some people make $250. So multiply 250 by 12. That's just about what, 3,000 something dollars for somebody's whole year's salary. Some people make 5,000. That's $500. That's about what $6,000 per year. So 6,500 is a whole lot of money Some of the people work in government make even less than that. I understand people in the police makes about $150. So for few people sitting on Capitol Hill to just be, mingling in money like that, free money, I thought it was insensitive, and that's why I thought we needed to take an action. But there is a difference between your willingness to take an action and whether the institutions associated with facilitating that process is willing to enable that.
All right, let me bring this to your attention. The opposition and many Liberians too um, query this government that is being dominated by the Southeast. And as though that accusation, that complaint had not been hanging around, we just have Funanti Kofa from the Southeast elected as Speaker. My question is there any rationality in this qualm that many Liberians have with the government that is being heavily Southeastern? Where do you stand?
Mr. C, and I think that's the substantive difference with me and a lot of Liberian politicians.
Okay.
If Anthony C becomes president, and Anthony C believes that only people from the Southeastern belt he wants in his government, that's his choice. Is that not the case? Is there anything in our constitution that says that the government, people that are working in the government must come from all over the country?
No,
Nothing
the
in our
Constitution does not say that, but common
It
sense
doesn't say
calls for
that.
that.
Well, no, and I think you see, listen, when we begin to give opportunity to
Mhm.
irrelevant people, they pick up on irrelevant issues, and these are some of the things that make rounds. I want us to deal with substance. For example, let's deal with the legislature.
Okay.
That legislature has 72 members, not so?
Right.
The 72 members come from the 15 political subdivisions of this country, not so?
So,
The current Speaker of the House is from Maryland County. The current Deputy Speaker who vied comes from Grand Coup County.
right.
The very people in the House voted. It was not a selection, it was a vote, not so?
So,
So these are not the discussions. Who becomes speaker, deputy speaker, who become minister? It's not going to put bread on the table of people in Basso. It's not going to help a farmer in Bon County that cannot sell his rice. It's not going to solve the road challenges. We must deal with substance. If you want to be substantive, come to the table and say these are the ways in which we can build better roads in Bon County. These are the ways in which we can change the rice supply chain. If we leave that argument and we start dealing with, George, we are building 10 houses. The houses got finished before one hospital. These are the people we elevating. I don't know how to discuss, I don't know how to discuss lack of substance. I know how to discuss substance. I want to tell you how we can add value. If the politics in Liberia would be on the basis of George, we are wearing $10,000 shoes. But my watch is expensive. So if we gotta be discussing or my shoes is expensive. If we have to be discussing relevance now on the basis of watch and shoes, it doesn't make sense. What is important? You want to wear your $200,000 watch? Are you creating opportunities for our people? I want to deal with relevance. You never one day on any record heard me say, oh, Ellen Johnson selling building houses. And her house, she took over the entire Cinco belt there and she's turned it into her private quarter. And Amara Corner is building this. That's nonsensical. I want to deal with issues. And issues means how can we deal with education? How can we refocus education? How can we drive health? How can we create rural Liberia so that we have cities? Like you are in Minnesota, you're not in New York, you're not in Washington, D.C., but there's life. Somebody else is in Georgia. There is life in Georgia. How can we create cities in our counties? That's what we should be discussing. If we do that,
I agree
relevance.
with you, Mr. Freeman, but you are a leader and you understand that leadership is symbolism, setting examples, as simple as they may be, can help to drive a whole nation on a path that may lead to something big. For example, the proposed suit will make it popular today in Liberia. I mean, Joe didn't have to swear to Joe wear that suit, and everybody follows. And so, if the leaders are buying expensive things, if the leaders are building homes in less than few years into coming to power, things that they don't have, don't you think that is significant for people to complain?
I'll tell you what.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you what. When people start to complain about who's wearing what, you create that window for people who themselves have not lifted themselves out of anything their entire life to be relevant. So let's take the campaign, Mr. C and I. While I'm talking about how we can expand our tax base, Mr. C will be talking about Joshua is wearing $10,000 shoes. And Joshua just finished his second house. So Mr. C is the popular man, even though Mr. C himself doesn't even have a kitchen, even though Mr. C himself have not even had the patience to educate himself, even though Mr. C himself as a person has not even been able to elevate himself to any level. But Mr. C now is the relevant guy because we can deal with the non-issues. I think if relevance is based on the issues, that's it. Is something wrong with political leaders that came from nowhere that are in government wearing expensive things? Personally, I share that view. There's something wrong with that. But is that the issue? No. Let's deal with the cause. What's the cause? Resources that are being diverted from substantive issues. Let's identify those substantive issues. Let's take it that Mr. C is selling beer. For example, let's take Liberia is a country that's selling beer, right? And Mr. C is the CEO. Then Mr. C starts to buy very expensive watches, expensive clothes, and what have you. As a result, Mr. C is not able to pay salaries. As a result, Mr. C cannot even buy 1 inch. As a result, we don't have electricity to continuously sell the beer. If I deal with those issues, what's going to happen? Mr. C is not going to divert resources anymore because I'm dealing with substance. But if I deal with a non-substance, it creates an opportunity for anybody to be relevant. That's why I'm saying the threshold for
So
relevance in Liberia is so low.
You are also saying these are distractions. People are not focusing on those things, not having those conversations that would drive national development, and they are only looking for attention.
Correct. So I'm saying, look, if you don't deal with the issues and you deal with the non-issues, then the threshold for popularity for anybody would be slim. That's one. Two, then anybody can come to the table. Oh, Mr. C is wearing $50,000 shoes. Oh, I'm not wearing $50,000 shoes. Look at my shoes. My shoes is 500. What you say, what I say, that's it. That other argument died. Oh, Mr. C is building a house. How does that change the quality of maternal delivery for the woman in Lofa County?
Mr.
How
Freeman,
does that provide health solutions?
All right, this is my final political question. Then I will ask you the way forward on a few issues. Time is fast spent. And that is our politics has become a popularity contest, noise making contest, munya munya, zekwe zekwe, and the youth fly for it. And nobody is talking anything substantive. It's just finger pointing. That guy is bad. This guy is bad. We have to change that. How do we do it, Mr. Freeman?
Thanks to Facebook, today you don't only need to have a physical radio station or a physical TV station. Look at the power of technology. I'm in Liberia. You are in Minnesota. Somebody else is in Atlanta. And we're communicating.
Right.
People, a lot of people are on Facebook, and this is a very good infrastructure. While we are here, people are commenting because they're watching the show. Somebody in the UK is also watching it. I think when we can begin to redirect the conversation, you listen to Western media. Western media deals with the issues.
Right.
Western media do not create the opportunity for irrelevant people to be relevant. I think more and more when people like myself remain on message, remain on substance, I think it's going to help change us. I want to have a conversation with George Weah and his government to talk about how we can add value to the lives of the people. I want them to prosper. I don't want them not to prosper because their failure will mean failure of thousands of other people that are Liberians. It would mean the name of the country being dragged. So when I proffer these ideas, I want the government to succeed. I think if we start to drag along those lines, it's going to work. You can see the same thing in America. When the Democratic Party, when the Republicans are in power and the Democrats are not, they have disagreements on tax issues, right? They don't have
Right.
disagreement on how many houses. I mean, those are not ideas. Somebody will come and say Donald Trump is making money from this and that, but those are not issues that become prominent. What becomes
No,
prominent are the relevant issues. And
no,
once
that's
it
not what
comes
the
to bread
parties
and
are
butter,
discussing. Mhm.
thank you. And I think people like you, I think if we work together, we can reshape the conversation. And I think that's extremely important in us using these mediums, using the radio station to reshape the conversation. If we don't, our country will always have these challenges. Bossman, there are issues in Ghana. There are issues in Nigeria. There are corrupt politicians all over the place. There are corrupt politicians in Kenya. There are those in South Africa. South Africa is developed. South Africa gives you more access to opportunity. You can easily live in South Africa. You can move from America today, go to South Africa, and you miss nothing. If you leave from America today, come to Liberia, you miss a lot of things. In terms of services, in terms of this. Well, let's create a functioning society. That's the conversation I want to have.
Thank you so very much. That is the voice of Mr. Simeon Freeman, political leader of the Movement for Progressive Change. He is a business executive as well. He is the executive of the Consolidated Group. Let's read some comments and then we'll come to our closing. Let's hear from our viewers here. Uh, this one is from Justice C. Gather, watching from Morovia. And this one is from Mr. Anthony Gay. What's the topic? Look in the scrolling text there, you will see it, Anthony. I think he did. Oh, okay. Reflection on the 2020 Senate race. Oh, no, that's not what we're talking, my friend. You missed that. Keep paying attention, Anthony Gay. Yes, that's the battle between Cote d'Ivoire and CI, he said, I believe. Anthony Gay, interesting story. That was when we were talking about when you were doing a live cow business. Joseph Anderson, I like this guy. He's always trying to make things happen. My man, you always making things happen. Anthony again, yeah, group like Sikoji Simping in Cote d'Ivoire. Anthony Gay lived in Cote d'Ivoire before, so he's familiar with that terrain. I only know Taboo and I only know Abidjan. Elizana Boniface Emmanuel Hayes, please don't outsource the job to other nationalities like the cow, please, my brother. This one is from Gacom Moe. Mr. Freeman should provide us with the blacklist. What is the blacklist? Mr. Freeman, you will tell me about that blacklist maybe. Anthony Gay, why politics when you are so well as a businessman? And that's the question I asked him, but he said he got better ideas to make the political system work for us. Anthony Gay again. Okay, that's the same one. This one is from Rachel Johnson. I beg the difference. This one is from Rachel again. They are drowning slowly. Poor healthcare, poor school, high poverty rate, high rape. Be careful what you say. These wars will come back during election. Mr. Freeman, I told you that the people are drowning. You said no. This one is from Do. I think it's Panendo. Watching you. Where are you watching us from? Let us know. From Liberia? Finley's son. I agree. I don't know which one you agree with. Rachel again, I still think he can succeed if he listens. I don't know. You're talking about Mr. Freeman. Mr. Freeman, maybe the person you should listen. So you start listening to
Maybe
me so you can succeed.
no, she's talking about the president, I guess. She's saying
Oh,
Josh
okay.
can succeed.
Okay. Anthony Gay again. What's your take on the dual currency in use in Liberia, Mr. Freeman? That is one of our final questions to him. He will come to that. Not accurately stated. It helps to some degree. This one, Mr. Freeman is a modern, forward-looking Liberian politician that appears to bring a lot to the political discourse. His problem will be developing a populist language that will connect with the broad masses of the people. Well, the way I understand it, there they say you're not yelling too much because I don't know how much sense you can make, my brother. This is Zina D. Doa. This brother sounds knowledgeable, my man. You're getting some. Let's see from Rachel again. You have extremely high literacy rate in the country. How do you expect the people to vote wisely? They vote with their stomach for the moment. Anthony Gay again, we have the opportunity to replace a call. We have the opportunity to place a call to Mr. Freeman. Oh, he asking, will we? My brother Sarah, just send your question. We will read it. The new energy we will not take calls today. Remember, you killed Mama, you killed Mampa. Oh, I don't like when people say this, but that's your right to say it. Let me see this one from, I saw a comment from Baton Kula here. The president must take responsibility for those he hired. I feel the same way. Anthony Gay again, Freeman is contradicting himself when he said Jovia does not have the technical know-how to get the job done as a president, yet he's saying Weah has the responsibility to make the necessary adjustment or change. Seriously? He's asking a question. Maybe he feels that Mr. Weah does not have it at all. This one is from Francis Mensa. Mr. Freeman, who is relevant and what makes an individual or person relevant in the Liberian society? Well, I have that answer. Make noise. Yell upon your head. Yeah, point fingers. Tell people that everybody is wrong when you are right, then you will be relevant. Baton Kula again, Francis Mensa, he's talking about the issue that matter as opposed to people who raise non-substantive issue and become relevant at the expense of the country and people. Mediocre low achievers are irrelevant in any society. Well, that would do it for the reading of comments. Mr. Freeman, your reaction to few comments there from our viewers.
Yeah, the gentleman who talked about the dual currency, I will speak to that. And the other gentleman who talked about the contradiction, and I think Mr. Baton Kula did a good job to provide a clarity. When you elect the president is the commander-in-chief. The president takes full responsibility. If the president doesn't have capacity, that is a whole new subject. If you go to work and you start to blame the people the president appoints, then that lets the president walk off the hook. But if you hold the president responsible, he's the president, he's the person you elected. So whether he has capacity or not, we move past that because that was an issue that should have been discussed during elections. The fact that it wasn't, then that's basically mute. Now we need to deal with what capacity he has and who he has working with him. The issue of dual currency, Liberia's problem is not dual currency issues. Sometimes, look, in Liberia, we very much good at misdiagnosing. Take the county you come from, Busman. Yeah. That county, Grand Cru, was tied to Sino County.
Right.
River G County was tied to Grand Jide. Bomi County was tied to Monserrato. Margibi was tied to Monserrato. Bapolu was tied to Lofa. You know what we did?
No.
A couple of years ago, the people of River G say, you know what? When Samuel Doe was president, we got nothing out of this whole thing. Every development starts in Zwedru. So you know what? We want to be our own county so we can be developed. That was a misdiagnosis of the problem. Then what happened? We created River G County. We created Grand Cru County. The two senators from Grand Cru County are paid $30,000 a year. $30,000 a month. Times 12 months.
And that's the only development we got.
But I'm coming to that. So I will give you the calculation. So 30,000 a month, and this is excluding other perks. Times 12, that's 360,000 a year for two senators. You got two representatives. That's 16,000 times 12. That's 192 plus 360. That's $552,000 every year. Think about it, Mr. C. If $552,000 US dollar was spent in Grand Coup County every year, void of representative and senator, if the government just came up with a people engineering dynamics like it's done in America, we do a zoning thing where we say for every 5,000 persons or every 10,000 persons in this habitat, we need to have a school, we need to have a hospital, we need to have laid out communities. Grand Crew would have been developed. We misdiagnose. It's the same thing now we're doing with currency issues. Let somebody tell me, how does the availability of dual parity create a problem? It doesn't create any lesser demand for the Liberian dollars. In Ghana, even though they don't have the dual infrastructure, but they have Forex Bureau. People go to the Forex Bureau and buy the dollar. If you need a dollar, people go to the bank and get the dollar. In our case, it makes it readily available. What is the specific challenge from an economic standpoint that this dual currency issue creates for our economy? What? In fact, in any respects, if I were to tell you, it makes it even easier. Our main problem here is that we keep printing money, pumping it into the economy without necessarily having a reason for pumping that money. And that is what is leading to inflation claiming. We printed 16 billion on our Ellen Johnson salary and pump it in the economy. We did not even pump it in the economy through the commercial banks. We just pump it in the market. That's why you saw my recent stop. I talked about the central bank. So these are our problems. If we don't face up to them and we keep misdiagnosing, the outcome will not be very favorable.
Well, let me bring this comment in from, let me see it right here. From Isaac Doe, that is Deputy Minister for Youth Services at the Ministry of Sports, Youth and Sports. Please try to bring in others from the other side, brother. Regards to Mr. Freeman. Let's celebrate the lightning of Monrovia. In the 21st century, we have a gentleman who lives in America. He never saw light going off one day. He's telling me to celebrate lightning in Monrovia. And if you come to think about it, he said, like, are we really serious? I must celebrate light. When I see anyway.
Well, thanks for dealing with that for me.
Yeah. And so Mr. Freeman, the dual currency issue that I don't know anything about business, economics, and money. I'm not an economic or business guy. There are many people that hold a strong opinion that, look, if we have a single currency that would be legal tender, just as most of our African countries do, even in the United States, you don't spend any other currency in any store at any business. I went to UK. I was there for 2 weeks. I thought because of the traditional relationship, I could just spend the US. When I got there, the guy said, what? No, I'm not taking that money. Go to the Forex Bureau. So why you think it would not make sense for Liberian dollar to be the only legal tender currency in terms of exchange in Liberia?
You know, Mr. C, when you have a problem, and that's how we do it in the private sector, you ask yourself, what is the problem? You don't say, oh, this person caused it. If I'm your brother, you open a shop, you put me in there, I stole the money.
No? Are you there? Mr. Freeman, are you with me? Seems to be somebody might have called him. Anthony Gay said, what? Dual currency is not a challenge to economic growth, to economic growth of Liberia. Anthony Gay is not agreeing with Mr. Freeman there. It seems to be my guest had gotten a little glitch there with his internet. Probably someone might have called him. So folks, stay with us. I think that problem will be resolved and he will come by. I guarantee you. We want to say you have been watching the Hour of Politics with me, Anthony CA, and I have been interviewing Mr. Simeon Freeman, who is the political leader of the Movement for Progressive Change. It's a new political party. He contested two times, 2011, 2017. He's back with
Sorry,
me. Yep.
sorry about that. Sorry, I was switching internet source. I didn't realize.
Okay.
So
Go ahead.
I was saying to you, you know,
Mhm.
our problem clearly is not about duality of currency. In 2015, in 2014, July, I had an interview on Fabric Radio,
Mhm.
and there I said that the rate at the time, the exchange rate was 70. It was hovering between 60 to 70 to $1. And I said the rate was about to climb. And I said the rate will rise to about 90 to 100. You know why I said that?
No.
The central bank was about to infuse money into our economy. By 2017, 5 billion was printed and infused. By 2016, 5 billion was printed again and infused. By 2017, another $10 billion was infused. What is causing inflation in Liberia and that's causing this massive exchange between US and Liberian is because we're printing too much of the Liberian dollar and pumping it in the economy. It's not about the duality of the currency. It's got nothing to do with that. Let's take Sierra Leone. Sierra Leone, they use the leons. Why is the rate so high? In Nigeria, why is the rate 300 and something to 1?
Right.
In
Ghana.
Kenya, this is not a Ghana. They changed the currency. It was almost 2,000-3,000 to 1. They changed the currency. Now they have the new Ghana city. But when they started, it was 0.9 to 1. Now it's about 5.87 as of yesterday. It rose to 5.9 something during the December period. Why are they having those challenges? It's about how much of the money you print in. You have to have an effective fiscal and monetary policy where you balance it at one. You want to be able to if you're creating inflation, then you have to have a way to mop up the money, from the economy. So when people start to say, oh, if we have only Liberian dollars, then this problem will be solved. Our true problem in Liberia is that we have more Liberian dollars on the market and we have no control over it. It's just circulating within the public space. And alternatively, we also have these cartels that are playing a role. And I also think, in every respect, we need to sit down and focus on what the real problem is. And the real problem is not dual currency. But again, we're going to have a misdiagnosis. We're going to take the US dollar off the market, and that's not going to fight inflation.
Well, Mr. Freeman, I mean, I enjoy the conversation with you here. Surely, I would not hesitate to get back to you again. If we can make this maybe every other month, you come and talk to Liberians in the diaspora. People in Liberia follow us also. We have a huge uh, viewership on YouTube. They're going to watch this. So I will try to see if we can make it a little frequent. What do you have for our people? Earlier, when we started the show, I played the song Change Will Come. You are a businessman, you're trying to bring change in business, and you are also a politician, you're trying to bring change in politics. Will that change come? How will the change come? Speak to our people
I,
and please for
I,
a
I tell
minute
you,
to close. Yeah.
I tell you what, Mr. Sear.
Mm-hmm.
Importantly,
Yeah.
when you take the United States of America alone,
Mm-hmm.
we have a huge pool of Liberians in the diaspora. A
Okay.
huge pool. The group of Liberians in the diaspora have direct relationship with Liberians in Liberia. I think if we commit to a change agenda, forget about who you like, who you don't like. At the close of the day, I tell people when I present my passport across the world, they don't ask for whether I'm Bassa or I'm Crown or I'm Cool or Madingo or which political party I belong to. They judge me on the basis of which country I come from. When a small country like Singapore, when a guy presents his passport, A small country like Mauritius, when a guy presents his passport, is judged on the basis of that. And whenever I speak on the basis of the fact that I, Simeon Freeman, truly want George Weah to succeed. Like I wanted Ellen Johnson Sirleaf to succeed. Not because I think he's better, no, but because his success is Liberia's success. And I think if all of us pick up that mantra and set Liberia as such, come with ideas and create relevance and give relevance to people who are talking sense and not just people who are just drumming up hysteria and just making noise, I think we'll have a better country. The America that we celebrate, the forefathers of America elevated relevance and they projected it. And so strong, solid, relevant men became substantive in America and they drove the country in a whole new direction. I think that's what we need. I think if you can connect with other journalists here, connect with other people in the diaspora, and we start to sell this thing about if you come into the airways to talk about, oh, who's wearing shoes, who's building house, it's not going to change Lofa County. It's not going to change the hopelessness there of Bon County or Grand Bassa or Grand Cru or Riverside or River G. Let's deal with core issues. I think we'll have substance. I think that change can come. Let me tell you something. I'll tell you something important. I don't know how old you are, but in 1980, Ghanaians came to Liberia. They came to buy sugar, they came to buy rice, they came to buy flour. You had to pass through Cote d'Ivoire. In the 1970s, Danane, if you go to Guinea, as far as what they call Zelekore in Guinea, JK, all those places were using goods from Liberia, imported in Liberia. Transshipment was bigger than our maritime program. Liberia was that hub. We can still regain that position. There's a lot that we can do. Transshipment. Do you know who we lost transshipment to? We lost it to Togo. We lost some to Ghana. Transshipment used to be one of the biggest things. Can we get back to those things? Yes, we can do that. When people come and talk ideas, substance, relevance, it will drive our country. But if we just celebrate all these cheap talk, people just talking here and there, it's not going to lead to anything. I'm not going to reduce myself to that kind of politics. My reputational race is too solid as a person to begin to play these kinds of cheap games and look for cheap relevance. If I'm not going to be president, like somebody said to me, well, in my own right, I'm already president. I'm in a building where my office is going to be situated on the entire 7th floor. It's going to be a glass floor. I'm going to have a corporate executive office. I'm going to bring some of my Rick's office from Nigeria to Liberia. But man, I'm already president in my own right. I'm on this road because I believe Liberia can be better. And I cannot do it alone. You guys that hold the mantra of the media that are the fulcrum of information dissemination. I think if you begin to drive it, I think our people will get it and they will give us that right leadership. It doesn't necessarily have to be me, but it will be that right person that we can all support to give us a better Liberia.
Thank you so very much. That was the voice of my guest, Mr. Simeon Freeman, political leader of the Movement for Progressive Change. He is also the chief executive of the Consolidated Group of Complaint. Folks, we want to say thank you. This is how we will conclude our broadcast. But before we conclude it officially, we want to tell you we have a brand new show coming up here at Focus on Liberia called The Liberian Dream. And this program will be hosted by Leo Johnson. The first topic in the first episode will be the current state of Liberian citizenship, our cultural understanding, who we are as a people, community-driven solution. How can we provide solutions like the one Mr. Freeman is providing from the community level? And how can we create a culturally responsive system that can help to better our society. Also coming soon to focus on Liberia will be Q&A with Robert Monsieur Pade, the leader of the One People Revolutionary Movement. This program starts 2 Sundays from now. Mr. Robert Pade will be here every other Sunday starting on the 31st of this month. He will be here every other Sunday to discuss the issue of governance in Liberia. On that note, we want to say a very big thank you to our guest, Mr. Freeman. Let's find time to do this again. I think you saw the comments. Everybody appreciated, your contribution today. I've listened to you on Spoon Network, but having that exclusive access and giving you more time to discuss was more rewarding, not only for me, but also for the Liberian people. And this is the business we do. We got your advice. We will make sure we promote conversation that are issue-driven, substantive discussion, because these are the kind of conversation that move a country, and not this kumbaya about who's wrong and all that. No, it's not going to get us there. But Mr. Freeman, we have a beautiful song here that unites us, and that song is called "We Are All Liberians," and that song is taking us home. Thank you, and bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Mr.